Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining with us. Hope you all are able to hear us. If you're able to hear us, if you can please drop down message in the message box. We will be starting the webinar now. Question and answer sessions we will be conducting at the end of the session. Do let us know if you face any difficulty. Okay. So good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining with us for our webinar on Microsoft Power BI and its integration with Microsoft D365 Finance and Operation on premise and on cloud. Here I am Santosh Sharma, organizer of the webinar. Along with me is Vivek, who is our host for today. We are from D Consulting Services Private Limited. D Consulting Services is a Microsoft partner-centric company, and we provide Center of Excellence, Innovation Center, and Support Center for Microsoft partner. So any partner who is looking to establish Center of Excellence, Innovation Center, or Support Center here in India can drop down me an email at santosh@date.com, which you can find on the screen. Now I will be handing over for the webinar to Vivek, who is our host for today. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Vivek Shah. I work as a technology consultant with D Consulting Services Private Limited. Today's topic is Power BI integration with Dynamics 365 financial operations on premise and cloud. The agenda of this webinar is to understand what is entity store, how to deploy entity store in Dynamics 365 financial operations on premises and on cloud, integration of Power BI with Dynamics 365 financial operation on premises, integration of Power BI with Dynamics 365 financial operations cloud, sandbox or UAT environment, and with the production environment of Dynamics 365 financial operations cloud. So what is entity store? Entity store is basically a second data source provided by Microsoft with the Dynamics 365. It's a dedicated data source for reporting and analytical data. The entity store is a database that is optimized for reporting. For entity store, we create aggregate measurement and dimensions on the we create aggregate measurement and dimensions, and those dimensions and measurements are stored on the entity store database. And from Power BI, with the help of direct query, we fetch those data to the Power BI and create analytical reports. Why we need to use entity store? There are large volumes of data, and it's difficult to hold those load on the transitional database. So with the help of aggregate dimensions and measurements, we can minimize or we can accumulate the data that we need for reporting purposes and create a separate database. With the help of that, we can create reports over the large volumes, and that does not affect our ongoing business transactions. So how the entity store is deployed on Dynamics 365? If you all know, in Dynamics 365, we have three kinds of environment. One is a development environment, another is a sandbox environment, and other is a production environment. In the development environment, when we create a project or model for the aggregate measurement or dimension, when we build those projects successfully, it automatically deploys the entity store to the environment. And while for the sandbox or production environment, rather it be a on-premise version or cloud version, we usually we create a deployable package from the development environment and deploy those package onto the via LCS to the sandbox or cloud environment. It is a simple package deployment that we do for all other deployments on the sandbox and production environment. Once those packages are deployed in the under the system administration tab in the Dynamics 365 under entity store, will see our project or model, the entity that we have created, and from there we can refresh and publish the data to the entity store database that is known as a AXDW database. So, so, so to understand the process, we'll be providing a demonstration the how this is done. So under demonstration, we'll be saying these things: how to and where, how to refresh the entity store, how to modify or change the recurrence of the entity store refresh, how to create and deploy Power BI reports for the on-premise version of Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations. For the Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations Cloud version, we'll be seeing how to configure LCS project with the Dynamics 365 FnO, how to configure Power BI.com configuration, that is Power BI services configuration with D365 FO, and how to deploy those Power BI reports that we have created in development environment to the sandbox and the production version of Dynamics 365. So let's start with the demonstration. For purpose of this demonstration, we will be using cloud hosted development environment to represent our development environment, as well as cloud and sandbox and cloud and production environment for on-premise and cloud and version also. So let's see where we have the entity store. Under the modules, we will go to the system administration. In system administration, under setup tab, you will see the entity store. There are some default entities provided by Microsoft that we can see over here. Let's select any of one and click refresh. Once we deploy our package or build our model for the entity store, we will see those entities available or listed over here. After selecting your required entity, click on refresh. For the first time, it will be doing the entire reset, so that if there is any data, it will delete those data from the AXDW database. Just hold on for a minute. Sorry for the delay. Once we click OK, the refresh will be scheduled and it will be appearing in the sometime. If needed, there are two options to change the recurrence of this schedule. Hello everyone, can you see the screen? So okay, so Imran, what you can see? Okay, so after doing the first refresh, it's we'll need to set the schedule for upcoming refresh, and those refresh are incremental. So select the entity and we click on edit. Once we click on edit, we will have this option enabled, that automatic refresh enabled. We set it to yes and just save. Let's see, it's okay. Once we have refreshed those activities, if you need to change the occurrence of the refresh, then the best place is to go to the batch job section in the Dynamics 365 Financial Operations. The batch job for the entity store refresh is described as a deploy measurements. We'll look for the deploy measurement batch job. So you can see the batch job that we have just scheduled. We can go to the batch job, click on edit, go to the batch job, click on recurrence, and from over here we can define how much time or at what intervals we would like to do this refresh. At any point of time, if you need, you can change it, or you can just set it to one time or manual if needed. Okay, now we have seen the how to and where to refresh the entity store, and how to change the recurrence of the entity store refresh. Now we'll see how to create the Power BI report for the on-premise version of Dynamics 365 Financial Operations. For that, let's move to the SQL VM for the Dynamics 365. As I mentioned earlier, the entity store is nothing but another database in the Dynamics 365 that is populated with the aggregate dimensions and measurements. When we go to the SQL Management Studio, we can see it is named as AXDW in all Microsoft versions, is on-premise or on cloud. In the tables, you will be able to see there are list of aggregate, there are measures and dimensions over here that we have populated earlier. To create report from this, we will be using Power BI desktop version. Let's go to Power BI desktop and click on get data. As this is a SQL server, we'll be using the SQL server connector. Currently the database and the desktop both are on the same server, so we'll be server name as a local host. And we can leave this database as a blank. The one thing is that keep in mind when creating the Power BI reports that in the Dynamics 365 we use a direct query method, not the import method in the Power BI. After selecting the direct query, click OK. We'll be using the Windows credentials. And here we have the dimensions and measure that we published earlier. Let's select few of them and load the data. It being the demo version, we might not have data on this tables, but once we get our required fields and measurement on this Power BI, we can easily create different reports with the visualizations and all that available within the Power BI desktop. So this is with the creating the Power BI report for the on-premise version. If we are using on cloud version, then the only difference would be that while creating the connection with the SQL server, we selected the Windows authentication, but with the on cloud version, it will be a SQL authentication, not the Windows authentication. So in the on-premise version, is everyone aware is that we have the SQL server hosted in our own data center and not on the Microsoft data center. So there is a tool called the Power BI data gateway that we use. It is available from Microsoft Power BI, which creates a bridge between our SQL server and Power BI services. So once we have created the report and we have some visualization in place, we save the report and publish the report to the powerbi.com. So Microsoft also provides some default reports for the testing and learning purposes. Let's see one of those reports of the vendor payments. As it being a demo version, we don't have data on the reports. But you can see that with this dimensional measures, you can create such wonderful reports with the help of Power BI. Let's publish this one also. Okay, now the reports is published. Let's see those reports on powerbi.com. So we published two reports. One was named the demo one, and another was the vendor payments. So this was with the on-premise version of Power BI for the D365 financial operations. Now let's see how to configure Power BI with the on-cloud version of Dynamics 365 financial operations. With on-cloud version, there are a couple of things we need to do. The first thing is configure your LCS project with your financial operations. So how to configure the LCS project? To configure the LCS project, let's go to the on-cloud version of financial operations, and let's go to system administration tab under the model. Then look for the system parameters under the setup. So once it's open, let's go to help. For the first time, you will see this connect to lifecycle services pop up. Click here to connect to lifecycle services. It will ask us to authenticate. And now it's a success. You have successfully completed the authentication. Go ahead and click left. Okay. Now here we select our project that we are configuring with this. When it's done, you will see the list of reports and other things that is available from the LCS. Click save. The second step is to configure Power BI services with the D365 financial operations. To do that, first we have to allow Power BI services to connect to the financial operations and with the database of the financial operation services. For that, we create one application app registration with the Azure Active Directory. Azure Active Directory, uh, look for the app registration. App registration, create a new registration, provide a name for your application. Here you select to whom you would like to provide access. After that, we provide a redirect URI. The redirect URI is the so redirect URI will be address of your application, financial operation application, followed by the authentication, that is OAuth. Click on register. Now we have successfully registered the application. Now we need to provide some permissions to the financial operations and the Power BI services. Let's go to the API permission under manage. Click on add permission. In add permission under Microsoft API, look for Power BI services. In the Power BI services, we provide delegate permission. The first will be view all groups, that it can connect or see the date groups of the people. Other will be view all reports. We'll create content. Then view content properties. And one is the data set, view all data set, read and write. Then view all dashboard, read and write. And under data order, add data to users data set. That's it, and click on add permission. Okay, now we have permissions. Now after creating the application, we need to create a secret or for a key for this application. To do that, let's go to the secret and certificate and secrets under manage. Click on new client secret, provide description. You can select its expiry. Let's skip it to 1 year. Once created, it will be appear only for 2 or 3 minutes. So let's copy this and put it somewhere safe. Now let's go to overview and get the application ID. Once done, we'll go to again to the financial operations under system administration. Look for powerbi.com configuration. Click edit, enable powerbi.com configuration. We'll provide application ID for the application that we created in Azure Active Directory. So this is the application ID. And the application key, the secret that we have created earlier. So here is the secret. Then click on save. Refresh the browser once and we'll see a small batch to connect to Power BI with the Dynamic 365. Click on get started and click here to provide authorization. Click accept. And now the powerbi.com is successfully connected with the Dynamic 365. We refresh this page. So once we have this connection, we can deploy the Power BI files to the Dynamic 365 financial operation. To do that, we'll upload our files to the asset library. Under the Power BI report model, we upload our PBIX file for the Power BI reports. And all the uploaded Power BI files we will be able to see under the deploy Power BI files. Let's go to the deploy Power BI files. Here we will find all the Power BI files. This is some demo files provided by Microsoft. So after selecting the Power BI file over here and click on deploy Power BI files, once you do that, this file will be deployed to the powerbi.com and you will be able to see those reports and share those reports with the other users. So let's deploy. Please do note this deployment will only work for the Power BI files created with the direct query method, and it won't work for the import query. For the sandbox environment of the cloud, you have option to create Power BI files with the SQL, as Microsoft do provide access for the SQL to the sandbox environment. But for the production environment of Dynamic 365 Financial Operation Cloud version, this is the only way that you have to deploy Power BI files through the portal only. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, so now we are open for question and answer sessions. If you have any questions regarding the webinar, please drop down those questions on the message box. We will try to cover as many questions as possible within the limited duration of time. Looking forward to hear your questions. Meanwhile, we will be also sending you recording of the webinar and also a feedback form which we request you to fill up. This feedback form will help us to update our webinars in the upcoming series. Please do let us know if you have any other questions regarding our today's topic.
Sure. The prerequisite for this integration would be the access to the license of Power BI, and the access to the Azure Active Directory, that you will need to create the app registration. That's it. Those are these two basic things that you will need.
Do let us know if you have other further questions. We will be also conducting further webinar series, whose topic we will be updating on social media applications and also emailing you. So we have one further more questions.
The question is, does this integration can deploy in private cloud also, or just SaaS model? No, the integration would be for the SaaS model only. In the private cloud, you will have to create a bridge between Power BI and the SQL server using Power BI data gateway. That would be the best possible way to create a Power BI reports with the private cloud or your own data center, the whole SQL hosted at your own data center. In order to practice, you can get to practice. You can download the VHD available for the OneBox environment from the LCS portal, or you can deploy the cloud hosted environment on the Azure from the LCS directly and use those environments for practice. Any further questions?
Do let us know if you have any further questions to be solved. So we will be closing the sessions for now. We will be also sending you the feedback form and video of the meeting. Looking forward for your participation in our upcoming webinars. Thank you all for joining with us. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.